Welcome everyone to this next session of Speaking for Success podcast. I'm pleased today to have as my guest Tendai Muranganwa from Rising Tide Toastmasters in District 45. Tendai lives in Zimbabwe and is a member of District 74, where he joined Toastmasters. So Tendai, tell us a little bit about when you did join Toastmasters.
Thank you, Heather, for having me on your podcast. I joined Toastmasters in March 2015. This was just after I left university. So I was really looking for somewhere where I could improve on my communication skills. So Toastmasters was the best fit for me. So that journey began for me in March 2015.
Okay, great. Now, yeah. I understand that not all that long into your journey, you had a little bit of a catastrophe in your life that affected your journey moving forward. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So yes, what actually happened was that in October 2015, that same year, I was diagnosed with meningitis. And I then lost my eyesight, and this was just a few months into my membership. And it was a bit difficult trying then to transition from being a Toastmaster who is sighted to a Toastmaster who is visually impaired. But all the same, I'm really grateful that I was able to get support from fellow Toastmasters to be able to actually come back to the Toastmasters program.
I have to ask, when that first happened, I mean, that obviously is a big adjustment and everything. And did you think right away, oh, I'm going to continue with Toastmasters? Or did you think, yeah, no, I'm not going to be able to do that? How long did it take you to kind of bounce back and be ready to do this?
Yeah, it was a bit tough because first of all, I had to deal with the reality that I had now a visual impairment. So I had to first go through rehabilitation for visual impairment. So that took me a bit of time. And I remember, I think up to 2016, up to August, I was in rehabilitation. Then it's after the rehabilitation that I was then able to have the confidence to come back into Toastmasters. And initially it was actually scary for me because at that time, if you remember, we used to have your manuals, your competent communicator and competent leadership manuals we used to use back then. And they were not in an accessible format. So it was quite scary for me, but I had to just navigate my way through all the difficulties.
Well, we're pleased that you did adjust. Now, you did just last year, I think it was, achieve your Distinguished Toastmaster designation. What did you end up doing for district leader credit to get that?
For my leadership goals, I actually organized an area contest for one of our areas back here in Zimbabwe. I organized an area speech contest that was around April last year in 2021. So it was quite an exciting experience for me. I also actually got to invite Jim Kokoki, who is also our club president for Rising Tide Toastmasters. So that's basically what I did. I organized an area speech contest for our area.
But did you serve as an area director as well?
What I actually did was that I served as a club coach because if you remember, I think sometime in 2018, 2019, there was a reprieve from Toastmasters International where initially people were supposed to serve as district officers, but now you could serve as a club coach to qualify for the district officer role that was needed then. So I used the club coach role for my Distinguished Toastmaster.
Okay, great.
Yep.
And how did you get connected with Rising Tide Toastmasters in St. John, New Brunswick?
Wow, that's an amazing story. It actually started in October 2015. Actually, yeah, it was September, October 2015. I had an opportunity to participate in the humorous speech contest for District 74 and actually won that contest. And at that contest, Jim Kokoki came through as the international president, was our international guest at the conference. So I actually met Jim as I was about to board a taxi to the airport, and we just had some beautiful photos. Then in 2021, last year, I just looked up Jim on Twitter, and we just caught up from that time, and he invited me to be a part of Rising Tide Toastmasters. So that's how I actually became a member of Rising Tide Toastmasters.
Mhm. So, you know, a lot of people, when they face some type of adversity, and often it's not nearly as dramatic as with you losing your sight, but, you know, they'll say, oh, I can't continue with Toastmasters because of, you know, whatever, I've lost my job, or, you know, any other number of reasons. What advice would you have for them about how it could perhaps benefit them to stay in Toastmasters?
Wow. I think the first step would be, for me, I have one adage that I go by, which says, it's not what happens to you that matters, it's what you do with what happens to you that does. So for me, instead of looking at problems, I always like to see opportunities. I remember when I actually started, when I came back to Toastmasters, because I had my hard copy manuals, which I couldn't read physically, I actually got my niece to record audios of the project outlines. So if you have got a will, you always find a way to navigate around any challenge that you might come across. And I think the most important thing is not to make excuses. You've got the resources, you've got everything that you need. So there's no reason for you to actually go for it in terms of your Toastmasters journey and your Toastmasters path. So just don't make excuses, focus on what is within your control to do, and the rest will just fall in place.
I think that's a good life advice for all of us, and that I think it's something that we can follow a little bit more. But I'm curious, was that your approach to life prior to your illness, or is that something, a philosophy that you've developed since then?
Well, for me, it's always been a part of who I am. I never like to make excuses. You know, regardless of where you are coming from, whether it's your background, I never want to make excuses. I always want to look for opportunities wherever they are available. So I just carried it over to my Toastmasters Pathways program. And so it has always been a part of who I am. I don't make excuses. I always try to stretch myself and challenge myself. So whenever, even when I attend meetings, I'm always looking to challenge myself, regardless of the fact that I can't see. I use that as I would call it maybe a springboard to actually challenge myself to say, you know, if other people can do it, why can't I do it? So it goes back to the adage of not making excuses.
Very important thing, and regardless of whether it's because of some type of disability, or, you know, some of us as we age say, oh no, I'm too old, I can't do that. I mentioned to you prior to us starting this, that's one of the reasons I'm doing this podcast, because I want to say to people, well, you know, I'm older than an awful lot of you, so if I can do it, what's your excuse? But yeah, you have to continually be challenging yourself and trying new things and finding out what you're capable of. So when the program switched to pathways. That must have made things somewhat easier for you with everything now being online. Was that the case? Or?
Yeah, initially it was a bit of a challenge because I remember back then we only had access to 2 paths on the pathways program. And at that time, you actually needed someone who was sighted to help you to access your path. So it was a bit of a challenge, but it's understandable. You know, when you're starting anything new, you are always bound to have glitches here and there. But all the same, I think for me, Pathways has been an amazing experience because all of my materials are now accessible. I can get them in a format where I'm able to easily access them. And I can get all the information, whether it's online on the website or it's on my computer. So Pathways has actually been a blessing for me. And I think for most people, especially with special abilities or special needs.
Right, for sure. And now you mentioned that prior to getting sick, you had won your district's humorous speech contest. Have you competed since then?
I love speech contests. I definitely love speech contests. But the last time that I contested, I think was in 2018. So it's been long since I last contested. But definitely this year, I'm definitely looking forward to getting back to speech contests. It's an amazing experience. When I actually won that humorous speech contest, initially I'd signed up to be a ballot counter for our club contest. But I had an amazing mentor called Distinguished Toastmasters Tondo from here in Zimbabwe, and she encouraged me to participate in the contest. And a few speeches later, I was the district champion. So speech contests are definitely amazing, and I always look forward to them.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that you're considering it this year, because I was just going to say, when you said you hadn't done it for a while, I was going to say, well, it's time to start looking at that again and challenge yourself in that regard. Would you encourage everybody to at least try a contest once?
Definitely. I would encourage people to participate in speech contests, because the one thing that I've noticed about speech contests is that there's a certain agency that you have when you participate in speech contests. It's a bit different from our normal club meetings where, you know, you can sometimes wing it or you can just be relaxed. But with the speech contest, it actually raises up your level, because you're also coming up with other fellow Toastmasters who are also raising up their levels. So if you are someone who's looking to actually take your speaking or your communication to the next level, I would definitely encourage us all to participate in speech contests.
Yeah, and one of the things is the fact that you get that feedback and you modify and you get more feedback and you modify. I've seen lots of speeches that, other than the title, they don't look much the same as when they first delivered it at the club by the time that they're delivering it at the district, because of the changes that they've made as they progress and say, oh, this didn't work as well, so let me try this. And but yeah, I always encourage people to give it a try once, because you never know.
That's true.
And we had one person in our club who reluctantly went into a club contest. I think it was a humorous one, and he won. And then he went to the area and he won. And he's there like, whoa, this contest stuff is kind of fun. I like this. I think I'll continue with it. But, you know, it's like with anything, it's that first time of stepping outside of your comfort zone and doing something that's different for you and challenging yourself. And, so what message would you give to people who are still reluctant to do Zoom, reluctant to do much in pathways? What would you ask them to do?
Wow. Yeah, that's a good question. For me, I'm always challenged when I see people who invest in Toastmasters and they don't then participate in the program. For me, it always begs the question to say, then why invest if you're not participating, if you're not taking part in the program? So I definitely encourage people to make sure that they are getting the best value or return out of their investment. Then before maybe I share on actually going on to Pathways or Zoom, before we started the online meetings, for me, I was actually limited to one club meeting, which was my local club, because moving around to other clubs was a bit of a challenge because of transport and movements. But with Zoom, what it has done for me is that it has allowed me to actually attend so many meetings, just like right now where we are communicating. I'm in Zimbabwe, here in Canada. So these are some of the benefits that you actually get from Zoom, using Zoom for our Toastmasters meetings. I attend Rising Tide Toastmasters in Canada. I've also been attending a club in London, which is called Experience French Toastmasters Club, which I use for learning and improving my French. So there are so many platforms that you can actually benefit from when you use Zoom. You can be in South Africa, you can be in China, you can be in India without the need for a passport. So my challenge to us all is actually go for it. There's no excuse. If you've got an internet connection, if you've got a laptop or a cell phone, why not try it out and see how far you can go? There's really no excuse for us, especially if we've got the resources at our disposal.
Right, and then you can take advantage of the different times, like as Rising Tide meets in the morning, which is afternoon for you, and but then you can do something that's, say, late afternoon, that would be evening for you, and you can, so it provides you an opportunity to take advantage of the different times that clubs are meeting.
That's true. That's true. You get to go so many places. And the issue, especially like what you said about time zones, you can actually pick out the clubs that are suitable for you, which suit in with your own schedule and timetable. So you can be virtually anywhere in the world.
Yeah, and it is great. I mean, I haven't done as much as I would have liked to, but I've done a bit of it. And I know I judged some contest in New Zealand at one point. And again, an opportunity I would never have had. I gave a keynote speech at a charter club meeting for a club in India. Again, an opportunity I wouldn't have had. So it provides those opportunities that may be more difficult to get within your own district, or, particularly when you're restricted to being able to get places physically. Getting there virtually is a whole lot easier. So, yeah. But I do want to commend Tendai on his persistence, because he does live in a country where power is not the most reliable. So we have tried to do this a couple of times, and then his power would go out. So we did make an arrangement that when he had it, he'd call me and we do it right away. But and I think that that's an important characteristic for our members to be successful, that because it's just another type of adversity that you may be facing, and how do you overcome it, and use those skills that you've learned to find ways around things. So, okay. So any final comments that you would like to make to encourage people to take advantage of everything that's out there and to do their best?
Well, I think my final words would definitely be to say, in life, regardless of what you face, whether it's disability, whether it's financial, physical, emotional, what do you see? Do you see opportunities or do you see problems? So instead of seeing problems, let's always see opportunities in whatever we are going through. So I think those are my words to everyone. It's not just the challenges that we face within our Toastmasters program, but it's also outside, in our personal lives. Don't allow yourself to, to fall down because of what you're going through. There's always a way if you are willing and if you are persistent. And one of the things as well that I've actually realized is that when you make that decision to go out there, resources, people come through and also support you on your journey. So thank you for the opportunity, Heather, to be part of your podcast. I really appreciate this opportunity. And thank you to all our viewers and listeners.
Well, thank you, Tendai, for being part of this. And I really appreciate your thoughts. And I hope that your experience has inspired others and that they will look at things as opportunities rather than problems and figure out the best way to approach those opportunities that they have. A reminder that if you do have any suggestions for somebody who can be interviewed as part of the podcast, even though I had originally thought this was going to be a very set number, I'm willing to expand it. So let me know. In the meantime, look for this. It will be posted soon on the District 45 YouTube channel. And thanks again, Tendai, for all your inspiring words and for your continued dedication to Toastmasters.
Thank you.